Hi, we're really excited today to introduce Don Mei, who is Director of Acumedic and Mei Leaf, and he's a curator of teas. And I did my Chinese medicine training at Acumedic, so this is a place really close to my heart that I used to go and drink tea, and it's phenomenal, and you'll learn a lot today. Hi, Don.
Hi, Dom.
Hello. Hi. Nice to see you both.
And you. So we absolutely love herbal tea in our family. It's a little bit like opening kind of like a pick and mix box when you look in our cupboards for tea.
Mm-hmm.
If you could just give us a little bit of a background on different types of tea, that would be a fantastic place to start, if that's okay.
Sure. So the first thing that you need to sort of split is herbals and tisanes and tea. And a lot of people get those confused, understandably, because they're sort of brewed in the same way. So if we put herbals to one side, because there are hundreds and hundreds of different
That's like your
herbs
chamomile and your peppermint, yeah?
Chamomile, peppermint, but all the way up to the very sophisticated Chinese herbs, that you get at a clinic. So tea is all made from the same plant, Camellia sinensis, and a useful but not exhaustive comparison to make is wine, because wine is made from one plant, but there are many different varieties. There are probably thousands of different varieties of the tea plant, but technically it's all made from the same main plant, Camellia sinensis. And in terms of the different types, there are arguments about this, but broadly there are sort of 6 different types of tea. There's white, there's green, there's yellow, there's oolong, there's black, and there's post-fermented tea. So those are the sort of 6 broad categories, and they are defined by the processing. So it's not defined by the type of bush that is growing. It's defined by what the producer does after picking. So you don't have white tea bushes. You've got a tea bush that can be made into white tea, black tea, or oolong tea. Obviously, there are some cultivars or some varieties that have over the years been recognized as being more suitable for oolong teas or for white teas. But that's the sort of broad scope. If you want me to dive into the detail of the differences between each of the 6 categories in terms of processing, I can, but we might be here for a bit of a long time.
No, that's fine. I think if we went through a little bit, I think most people have heard of green tea. Most people know black tea.
Yeah.
I think
Sometimes white tea.
Yeah, white tea I think has become a bit more popular as well on the market. I think maybe if you could give us an idea of maybe some of the health benefits, maybe some of the reasons that you might want to drink tea.
Okay, so this is a huge subject. Okay, so we can again split this, I think. So you can sort of talk about the health benefits according to the more simple biomechanic and biochemical mechanisms of tea. So tea contains many different compounds which are healthful, from antioxidants, catechins being the main one in green tea, which is why green tea is one of the most studied teas out there, because in the test tube, it has the highest antioxidant effect. However, it's worth noting, and I say this all the time to people, that, what's happening in the test tube isn't necessarily what's happening in your body. And so what you really should be thinking about doing, in my opinion, is just drinking tea that you enjoy the taste of, and the benefits will come. Because it might be that green tea in the test tube has more antioxidant potential, but studies have also shown that black tea, when consumed, breaks down and forms those catechins in your body anyway. So, it's not as clear cut as that. But so antioxidants, there's a controversial new theory, which I think is actually gaining traction, that part of tea's ability to improve your health is by actually providing a temporary pro-oxidant effect, sort of forcing your body to produce superoxide dismutase and these very powerful antioxidants of its own, so endogenous antioxidants. So it might be that it sort of has a reactionary effect on your body, so that you have an endogenous reaction. So that is possibly, and I would suggest probably, more of the mechanism of some of the antioxidants in tea. There are many other antioxidants in tea, quercetin, phenolic acids, vitamins, chlorophyll, lots of, the main headline about tea is antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. And we all know that those are the 2 sort of main markers for very common modern health conditions, right? Is to sort of try to reduce inflammation and try to reduce oxidative stress. Also, tea contains L-theanine, and L-theanine is one of the sort of secret sort of weapons of tea. It's not really found in other plants that are consumed. So if you want L-theanine, and you do, then you want to drink tea. And L-theanine has an ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. It affects your dopamine levels. So you can see studies they've done like mapping dopamine levels after drinking tea or drinking L-theanine, and it's very, very instant. So you get an immediate feel-good feeling. You get a reward out of it.
They call it the meditation supplement, don't they? Sometimes that it makes you feel sort of meditative and relaxed like that.
Yeah, because it also, as well as giving you a boost of dopamine, it also stimulates alpha brainwave activity. So it puts your brain into that meditative state. So sort of calm alertness. So you get this beautiful combination of alertness but calm. So you're not going to make mistakes, because one of the key areas of mistake making is you may be alert but you're too stressed, and that causes you to make mistakes. So performance.
Maybe what coffee does.
Well, coffee has that. Yeah, coffee has that ability to, or that unfortunate side effect that too much of it can make you more error prone. So alert but calm, relaxed, and also giving you that dopamine. So an all-round good effect. And if you add caffeine into that, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about caffeine a little bit later, but if you add caffeine into that, you get this perfect mix of energy but calm. Sort of relaxation and feel good, but alert, and not sleepy. And that is why throughout generations, people have turned to the tea plant for millennia.
So it'd be perfect, really, if you've got a high stress job, really, and you need to focus. This really is your drink during the day, isn't it?
Absolutely. And as I said, we're just talking about the sort of the chemical constituents, the compounds in tea. When you throw into that the actual sort of act of brewing tea and making tea, and depending on how deep you go into the Gong Fu style of brewing, which is what I'm doing here, it also provides a very potent space for mindfulness. It provides you with a moment in the day where you can literally turn off your tech and focus on brewing yourself a tea. And there are so many different things that draw you into that: the brewing parameters, the taste, the tasting, the sort of body sensation. So it is a way of becoming present, and we all know that is one of the most healthful things. And when I say healthful, I'm not just referring to life expectancy. I'm also talking about happiness and contentment. So, altogether, when you combine the chemistry of tea and the ritual of tea, you have, one of the most incredible sort of hacks for a healthy life.
I love that answer. I mean, I really like the answer as well, that it's not just what's in your tea, it's also how the tea works in your body. I think the fact that it sort of triggers, it shows how we're sort of working together with the tea, how it's always almost designed for us.
Well, in China, the phrase is tea requires three things. It requires leaf, water, and you. So if you're not present there, then you're not going to make good tea. And so that's something that I think we have missed a little bit in Western tea culture over the years, because we've sort of substituted that with convenience. And just like everything in life, when you substitute too much with convenience, it actually can become a hindrance and take you away from the present moment.
Yeah,
it's true.
How about milk in your tea? What difference does the milk? Well, where we put milk in our tea, but obviously a lot of the Chinese teas, you don't do that. Does the milk make a difference?
So there are some studies from my recollection that show that milk reduces the sort of antioxidant capability of tea. So I think it would be fair to say that it doesn't improve the health benefits of tea. It probably reduces them. However, you are still going to get some health benefits out of the tea, probably not as much as if you drank it without the milk. But also, and key to this is, like I said before, if you want to really sort of get the most out of the health benefits of tea, then you want to be drinking it out of pleasure, right? And if you enjoy the milk tea, great, enjoy it, drink it. But I would also say, try to experience some high quality tea that's not designed for combining with milk. because tea that is produced with the knowledge that it's going to be combined with milk tends to be quite rough tea. It tends to be quite coarse, and therefore the quality is not going to be that great, and the complexity of flavor is not going to anywhere match the sort of complexity of flavor of leaf that has been produced with love in order for it to be consumed pure.
I would really agree with that. I think when I first started my Chinese medicine training and they served us tea, it wouldn't be natural to me to put that with milk because the flavor in it was amazing. Yep. And the depth, it was just so different than any tea I'd tasted before. I think it was a great education for me.
But this also must be where it's very similar to food, isn't it? And that is, I suppose, quality is everything. You start going towards your organic, your low pesticides. I suppose there must be a massive difference then in the flavor you're going to get versus, your Tetley tea bag.
Huge. I mean, so, especially in a drink that has so many thousands of years of history, the levels of different sort of quality are massive. Mm-hmm. So you've got, very sort of low grade, high yield commodity tea, all the way to sort of medium quality tea, which is often sold in the Western market as premium tea, but is sort of still sort of, if you imagine the whole sort of scale, it would still be like, in the bottom third. And then you've got all of these levels above. And, it's not about being snobby because, ultimately you drink what you enjoy and you drink what you can afford. Yep. But at the same time, it's worth knowing that there's always a high quality tea to find. I mean, I've been doing this for nearly 20 years and, there's always more, there's always levels above. So, it's immense, the breadth of quality in tea. And, there's place for those commodity teas in the market. But I think it's very important that consumers, just like with everything in food, need to be aware of what they're putting in their body and also get more enjoyment out of what they are consuming. And oftentimes that's maybe, looking for the more artisan and the more sort of quality approach to production.
Yeah, it's just a little bit also like, just thinking about it, because you see a lot of people, stood in the wine aisle and they're reading all the bottles of wine and they're looking at which ones they want, what flavors they want. If they just spent, the same amount of time looking at their teas, surely you get the same sort of.
And I say this to quite a lot of people, if we are now quite well versed in sort of the different sort of terminology around wine, right? You hear people talking about cultivars. Oh, I like a Cabernet Sauvignon or a Merlot or a Pinot Gris or whatever, right? You never hear that in tea outside of the tea sort of connoisseur community. And part of the reason why you never hear about it is because producers or sellers, I should say, not producers, sellers don't write it on their packaging. So you're in a situation where in the West, we are sort of walking into shops and we're picking up, like it says Japanese green tea. It might not even say Japanese. It might just say green tea on it, right? Yeah. That's the equivalent of you walking into a wine shop and you looking at a bottle and it's saying white wine. I mean, it's not giving you anything. It's not giving you anything about the terroir. It's not giving you anything about the cultivar. It's not giving you anything about an age statement. It's not giving you anything about the production technique, nothing. And so if the consumers are not being given that information, then they're not asking the questions, what does that mean? And so part of what we try to do with our YouTube and, the education is to just give people a glimpse that these are the kinds of questions you should be demanding from your tea seller, because that's the only way to raise quality.
It's also when you go to restaurants as well, because I know when we go to restaurants, we don't really drink, but I'm always sat there. The first thing doing, they give me the menu is I look to the back and go, where are the teas? Because I always have tea with my meal, and it's amazing how you say, well, what teas do you have? And they go, I might have to go and check. And you think, you could probably rattle off 12 different wines for me. Please go and check. Bring me a box.
Yeah,
I'll bring you Don Mei anyway.
Exactly.
Well, they bring me the boxes, and I go,
yeah. And that's even the case for like the super high-end restaurants. That is changing. Like, you can go to some very high-end restaurants and they will have a sort of half decent attempt at a list where you've got 3 or 4 teas which have, some cultivar, mentioned and location. But oftentimes they'll just say, oh, great, English breakfast, peppermint, and that's it. That's your choice. Yeah.
So what would you look for in a good quality tea? How would you, apart from getting them from you, which obviously we'd recommend people do anyway, but I think if they wanted to know if a tea was a good quality tea, how would you go about that?
Well, I seem to be dividing my answers into two for all this, but it sort of is split. So on the one hand, there are sort of pretty clear markers that you can look for. You want to look for a statement of origin on the tea. You want ideally the cultivar to be mentioned and the season when it was picked. So those are the three bits of information. If they're not on the tea packaging, then they should be. And usually if you've got higher quality tea, they would be. So that's sort of a telltale marker for people. It's like, you know, if you see that kind of information, you're more likely, that's not to say that you will, but you're more likely to be moving in the right direction. And there are others, you know, but it's sort of more dependent on the tea.
Like if it smells strongly, does that make a difference?
No. One of the big problems with fragrance is that dry tea leaf, if you take dry tea leaf and smell it, you will get some aroma, of course, but tea is not designed to be smelt dry. Tea is designed to be smelt wet. So once you've hydrated it, then by all means smell the leaf, or you know, heat up your teapot, put the dry leaf in and smell it. Then you'll get some aroma. When you think about it, if you're smelling aroma when you're smelling a tea, that means the aroma is dissipating.
Yeah, that's true.
Which you don't want.
That's true.
So the whole art of production is fixing aroma so that it doesn't dissipate.
And all the benefits with it.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, a lot of the aromatic compounds have got health benefits, and we haven't even touched sort of the aromatherapy side of tea, you know, the sort of the effect that it has on your physiology. So yeah, I mean, smelling the dry leaf is not going to do much, and this gives sellers a very difficult situation because they want to sell the tea, but they know that people instinctively pick up the jar and do this, right? And they smell, and so the market has moved towards scented teas because of that. So that's why you go to these places and they've got, like, you know, like the flowery teas, or even sort of like chocolate, whatever, or blueberry, you know, they have all of these different names of flavorings, which essentially are, if you're lucky, sort of natural essential oils, if you're not, artificial flavors sprayed on your tea. And the problem with that is, number one, usually means that the quality of the base tea is going to be low, because what's the point of getting expensive tea if you're just going to spray it? Number two, you're going to hit it with hot water. All of those fragrances are just going to dissipate, and your first cup of tea is just going to taste it's going to taste nothing like it smelt, right? So I would always suggest to people, you know, I know it's your instinct to do it, but try not to buy on the basis of smelling the dry leaf. And that's difficult then, because then you're sort of in the hands of the seller, right? It's a trust thing then, right? Because you got to say, well, you know, if I've got no way of judging it sensorially, then I can only judge it on the information. There are quality markers in the look of the leaf, and you know, there's lots.
Maybe you could get a sample and try it, I guess, would be your best way, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Most tea sellers will sell, you know, 5-10 gram samplers for you, so you can sort of taste through the range.
That's how we got to know your teas. I think we ordered loads of samples for the clinic.
Yeah.
And I think we should tell everybody that our most popular thing that we have in our clinic is the Amber Gabba Oolong that you do. That is absolutely spectacular
must
tea.
Be going on for 7 or 8 years. We've been having that.
All our patients drink it, even people who've never had unusual teas before. And I would say that our waiting room, it's fantastic watching them all calm down on the tea. It's really interesting. And they actually have people who arrive 10 minutes early for their appointment just so they can come and drink tea before, who've never had Chinese tea before. And I think one of the other things we were talking about before is that, you know, you did a study with the Amber Gabba Oolong, didn't you? I think you supplied it to someone who did a study, and it was done on autistic children, looking at the benefits of the tea there.
Yeah, it was not actually amber; it was a different GABA, but it was the same family of GABA oolongs. Yes, we helped. We contributed to the study done by Coventry University on the effects of GABA tea on autistic children, and they did a few different teas. They did GABA tea. They did Amachizuru, which is another tisane. So that's a herbal. And they sort of tested it, but they got some, you know, it was a preliminary study, small study, but they got some very good results out of it, and found, you know, that there was on pretty much all of the markers that they were looking at, sort of
improved focus and improved balance and improved behavior, didn't they?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's just a fantastic result from a tea.
Yeah,
I think it showed you that quality from it.
And I think people tend to be surprised by something so ubiquitous as tea, you know, just brewing a cuppa, having, you know, profound, you know, health benefits, but, you know, it does. Yeah.
I think it's really for people to kind of understand a little bit that having those teas, having those that quality makes a massive difference. That you can go on your, when you look at the huge range of teas that you sell, if they sample some of those and try those, we've seen huge benefits from bringing them to our lives. I think hugely, and we underestimate the impact that tea can have on you. I think we look at it, it's the same way with herbs a lot of the time, but really it's a type of herb, isn't it? We're giving people a herb through in a brewing form. We're giving them a health benefit. We're giving them something that is full of antioxidants, is powerful on their health, and it's something they can enjoy, and as you said, bring into their life regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the travesties of sort of modern day is that we've sort of we're forgetting the incredible wealth of sort of natural healing that's around us, and it sort of confuses me because there's a lot of people that, I've been doing this for 20 years, but my family's been doing it for over 40 years. And so you always hear these things like, I don't believe in something, as if it's a belief mechanism. It's like, this is not about a belief or a faith. This is simply about the fact that there are plants that have chemicals which affect you.
I mean, it's evidence-based. It is evidence-based, and it is science-based. It's not a crazy idea. And it's got how many thousands of years? I mean, is it 5,000? How old is tea? I'm not sure.
I mean, tea, the sort of legendary birth date of tea is 2737 BC. Yeah. But that's so it's definitely over 4,000 years old. And it's one of those things. It's like, you're not just relying on the history. Okay, you would think that humanity would have to be pretty stupid to be consuming something for 4,000 years if it didn't have some benefits for you. But all you need to do is look at all the clinical studies, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Masses when you do the research.
So just dive into the research, and you'll see that the evidence is out there. Yeah.
So if we're looking at the kind of the mindfulness side and the idea of making the tea, I'm fascinated by how you're making your tea there. Yeah. So if you could just run us through, basically,
what have you got there?
What are you doing?
Okay, so this is the Gongfu style of brewing. The Gongfu style of brewing is my recommendation, and pretty much the recommendation of all tea lovers out there, is the best way to get the best flavor and effects from your tea. And so with the Gongfu style of brewing, which was invented way back in the Qing dynasty, but has sort of really come back to popularity in the East, is you're using small teapots. So this is probably about 130 milliliters, right? And you're using a large amount of leaf. So you're really stuffing it in there, right? Yeah. But you're brewing for short periods of time for more infusions. And what you get out of that tea is a worlds apart from if you were to take a pinch of leaf and put it in 250 ml of water and brew it for 3 minutes or 4 minutes. There's not to say that there's anything wrong with that style of brewing. That's an old style of brewing called big pot style of brewing, which we now call Western style of brewing. But it really doesn't show off the complexity of the flavor of tea. It's not how the tea is designed to be brewed by the producers. It's just, it's a disconnect if you're brewing it in that way. So essentially you're brewing short infusions. You're pouring you can pour directly into the cup, but usually we like to use small cups because that dissipates heat so that you're not burning yourself when you drink. So normally you're pouring into a pitcher like this, which is called a fairness pitcher, because if I was brewing for all of us, then I'd be serving from here. If I poured directly from the pot into 3 cups, we would be getting different strength brews, right? So this way it evens it out. So it's called the fairness pitcher. And you also get to sort of admire the sort of color of it. You can see it if you get one out of glass. So Gongfu brewing is sort of often referred to as the tea ceremony. But it's not ceremonial. It can become ceremonial if you choose to adorn it with lots of things and flowers, and you sort of put music on, and you have a certain sort of so there are people that will practice it to get their movements right. So it can become ceremonial, but at its heart, it's about getting the richest flavor and effects out of your tea. So if you want to feel the effects of the tea, like literally feel it, like I feel the effects. I've had, we've just started this conversation. Well, it feels 24 minutes ago, but I feel the effects of this tea now. But also, if you really want to taste the tea, because a lot of the frustration from a tea seller's point of view is you have an amazing tea which you've sourced, and somebody sort of takes it, puts a pinch in a large amount of water, and you're thinking you're not, it's sort of the equivalent of, I don't know, taking a good wine and sort of making a spritzer out of it. It's sort of like, why are you doing that? Like, yes, you are going to taste the wine, but it's not really how it's designed to be drunk. So you can make it as complicated as you want, but you can make it as simple as you want. So
it's quite quick. It's quite easy to get into your life this way.
Yeah.
Super easy. And there are different size sort of trays that you can do. You could do it just on your table if you wanted to. One of the advantages of a tray is that, you can make a bit more of a mess and the water gets like taken into the tray. But, it's something that is expandable. So you can start small and then just sort of grow.
Do the materials make a difference? I mean, what is the teapot made from?
So the material does make a difference, and it's very deep and geeky. But the sort of broad rule is glass and porcelain is neutral. So you can brew any tea in glass or porcelain. This is why porcelain is so popular in China, because it is the universal. It doesn't affect the taste of tea. When you start to get into things like this clay, this is Zhenshui clay. This is from Yunnan province. There are different types of clay, and they're unglazed, so they're reacting with the tea. And so you're adding an element of flavor shaping and texture shaping with the clay that you choose. So therefore you've got a myriad of different variables. You've got the tea, which is never the same. The leaf is never the same. You've got your water temperature, your time, your all of these other variables, but also how much the clay is affecting and whether or not it matches the tea, because some clays don't actually match the tea. So my advice is to start with porcelain, and when you're ready to dive into clay, go check out some videos, and you can start.
Lots of videos on your YouTube channel, which I think are great, which go through all of this in depth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Perfect. So if we could just go through one quick question, that is, if you had to give your top 3 teas, which ones would you pick?
It's gonna be tricky.
I know you must be them thinking only 3.
So I'm gonna split this up into tea types, if you don't mind, because there's like thousands within each type, so it would just be very difficult. Definitely up there is one of my top ones is raw pu'er tea, which was in that 6th category that I mentioned, post-fermented tea. That's what I'm drinking now, and it's usually in cake form. So it's usually in a form like this. And essentially this is a sun-dried green tea, which because of the fact that it's not been processed too heavily, so really sort of low processing, it's going to continue to age. So it will continue to develop and change depending on your storage conditions. And it's what I love about this type of tea is it's very terroir based. So it comes from old tea trees, so 200-year-old tea trees. So they've had a lot of time to, many years of bedding into this wild natural sort of forest, which over time has changed. But the amount of years that a plant has in terms of experience will affect flavor, because flavor is oftentimes created by defensive compounds. So if the tea has had to suffer or has had to deal with like
a drought
issues,
or like a
drought, infestation, etc., it's exactly like people, right? Experience, often sort of negative experience or struggles or hardships build character. And so tea that's 200 years old, that's grown in this sort of more natural forests, build a lot of character, and that's why I love this tea type. I would say another tea type, which I couldn't do with without any of the tea types, but another tea type which I tend to go for a lot is the sort of cousin of this, which is a fermented pu'er, which is basically taking sort of similar leaves but then fermenting it for about 2 to 3 months. And that makes it very dark and very rich and very sort of settling and digestive. It's an essential in my cupboard. I would say, look, I love all teas, but green tea is also another tea, which I just think is an amazing tea, especially for me in the morning. It's my sort of wake me up drink. So I wouldn't be able to handle my day without it, or at least I wouldn't be able to handle it as well.
Wow.
It's fantastic.
That is brilliant. Perfect. Well, thank you very, very much, Don.
Yes.
That was a very small snippet into what we would love to come back to and talk more about tea, probably for about 7 hours.
Yep. Half an hour was not enough.
No, it was not enough. That was fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us here at ADIO. We have lots of webinars on our program, and also at the same time, we're always putting more into our library. So at any point, if you want to search for them, you can find anything in the past, and hopefully they'll come and join us again in the future.
And we'll put your web links and everything on our site, so you can go and visit, Mei Leaf, which is absolutely amazing, his YouTube channel, and go and watch all those great tea videos. They're really good. And also we follow you on Instagram. You've got lots of social media there too, which is great.
Brilliant.
But, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.